It's Turbo Throwdown.
Swing your partner round and round. Everybody, it's a Turbo Hoedown.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. It's Turbo. It's a Turbo Throwdown.
Oh, you know, some different demographics. You know, we got multiple ranges here. What's up, everybody? I'm Teddy. Here's Alex. We're here to throw down, Turbo style. It's Turbo Throwdown.
I know we just did the last episode. It was so recent, you know, but we thought we'd come back with a new one.
And this new one is the one that we said we were going to do for the past 4 episodes, maybe.
I think 3 or something. I don't remember. 2? I don't know.
One of them we knew, like, all right, we're not doing it. It's not happening. But the other 3, we were convinced. Well, we actually did it. It's time. It's time.
Yeah. It's time. We're doing Sonic 1 versus Sonic 2 again. I'm just kidding.
Spencer, this one's for you. Literally, it is.
No, it's time. Yeah. It's time for us to shine like the stars behind Teddy, because we are doing Phantasy Star versus Phantasy Star 2, an unprecedented episode of Turbo Throwdown, because this is our first episode with a non-Genesis title, because Phantasy Star 1 is the Master System version.
A master of its trade. If you like SEGA, you've come to the right place. Be sure to subscribe for more Turbo Throwdowns. We got all summer, baby.
I don't know why. I thought you were going to say, if you like sex.
I polluted your mind with the button mappers.
Yeah, I thought you were going to throw something like that. I was like, what? And you said Sega, and I was like, that was tame. That was very tame.
Yeah, we'll keep it simple today. Alex will be representing well, actually, before we say that, Turbo Throwdown is a series where we pit up 2 titles respectively, and we talk about each. We weigh kind of what's good, what's bad, and determine who's the best. And eventually, they will all throw down, and we'll find out who is the ultimate victor. And the series that we're using is the SEGA Genesis collection for the PlayStation 3.
Mine's over there somewhere, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah, mine's there too.
Yeah, so here it is. I'm holding it.
We're holding it.
It's invisible.
What if we're like sharing it? We could just put it in the middle.
Can you? Well, yeah. Am I on that side for you?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Does it align?
We're using my footage, so.
Okay, here we go.
We're sharing a copy.
Yeah. We're holding it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And so today's throwdown matchup is Phantasy Star 1, which Alex will be talking about, and Phantasy Star 2, which I will be talking about.
Do you want to say that we didn't fully beat these games?
Okay, let's just get it out of the way. Because we may eventually talk about one of these games later, it doesn't make sense to channel all of our time into finishing them. And they're longer than just about every game on this collection by like 10x the number of hours. So, yeah, neither of us finished them. But maybe we will. I put a good like 5 hours in Phantasy Star 2.
I put 47. I'm just kidding. I put maybe like 4 or 5 to 1.
So it's at least enough of a platform for us to be able to weigh what the game is about, how it is, and you know what's good, what's not. Alex, can you start with the original Phantasy Star?
Hi, gamers. I don't want to do that voice. Let me take you all back to the year 1987. You know what was big in 1987, Teddy?
Cheese Whiz?
Maybe even some Crystal Pepsi. But what was really big in 1987 was a game from 1986. That game was, guess what?
Dragon Quest.
Yeah, look behind you. There's a slime on your table. Um, he's watching.
He's smiling. Death smile.
Dragon Quest was a huge game from 1986, an unprecedented game, a game that I know you know very well. Um, and seeing such a big release and such a big idea from the Famicom, a couple people over at Sega, one of them the Yuji Naka, Mr. Prison himself, um, and one of the other designers, a lady, Riko Kodama? I don't know. I hope I'm saying her name right. And some of the people had the idea of making a game for the Master System, the Sega Mark IV, if you would call it that, that could also, kind of weigh in and be on the same table as Dragon Quest. And that means they're going to make a huge RPG, scrolling world, big dungeons, saves. That's one of the first games by Sega that saved, and really offered something different for Master System players that they, probably could get on the Famicom, but have it on their own little console. Phantasy Star is a game where you play as, I hope I get these names right, so please do not crucify me, people, because I don't know. You play as Elise, and your brother Nero, who is a rebel, is killed by Lasik, who's the evil Empire people. King Lasik rules the Olgul system. And you team up with some other adventurers, a guy named Odin, and a little cat named Mew. I think his name's Mew. And you are going to get revenge for your brother Nero. That's the basic plot of the game. Gameplay sees you. It's very basic. If you play something like Dragon Quest 1, you know what to expect. It's very much a classic RPG. You got towns. You have first-person battles in this game. You don't actually see your characters. And something unique to this game, you actually have 3D dungeons, which I believe those were programmed by the Yuge himself, which is very visually striking for this game, especially for a Master System game. Honestly, I don't even know if I've seen anything this good looking on the Genesis. The 3D dungeons are actually quite impressive for this game. Yeah, it's a very basic early RPG. Very grindy. A lot of grinding if you want to actually progress pretty far in this game. Very cryptic. Some pretty funny translation errors. Like, I believe there's a fast food restaurant that's called like First Food or something, because first and fast are like the same thing. Like they're like spelled the same way in Japan, so the translation is kind of fucked up. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, it's Phantasy Star 1. I don't know how much more I can really talk about it, but it's a solid early RPG. And it's one that I would like to go back to and actually beat eventually.
So the PS3 version is the Master System version. For this episode, did you play the Switch version?
I did, but I didn't utilize any of the Switch things. So like I didn't use like the extra monster guide or like the map system that they added for the Switch version. I just played the regular ass vanilla version on Switch just for because it's easier for me to play my Switch. But I did essentially just play the same version that's on this collection.
Okay, cool. I was going to ask, was there anything different? Like a visual overhaul?
I didn't notice anything. Like I said, I think the Switch version adds like the maps for each dungeon, because we're the first person, they have like an overview map where you can see where you're going. That's nice for that version. And then they add like monster guides and stuff to tell you like the different stats of monsters and things like that. But like other than that, like I believe it's just the Master System game. So for what I know, it's the same game. But it was easier for me to play it that way than sitting in front of my PS3 and play it.
A lot of people credit the first Phantasy Star as being one of like the pioneers, like super impactful, and I think a lot of people are very nostalgic about it. How do you rate the first Phantasy Star? I guess in terms of impact or significance.
Impact, I'm not sure. I know the people that grew up with the console and played it really liked it, like really got into it. And I think on a visual level, it's impressive. The dungeons are impressive. The art design is impressive. It's so funny because I say that when you first start the game, it has like the opening cutscenes, which is really cool. I don't know if many of the RPGs at the time had like those style of cutscenes, and it tells like the story at the beginning, and then you get into the world, and there's like these dinky little characters walking around the overworld, and you're like, this looks like shit. But when you actually get into the battles and the dungeons, like those have really good artwork and like look really cool. So it's kind of like this balance between like this really beautiful artwork and then like when you're in the overworld, it looks like this dinky little characters walking around.
Yeah,
it's very funny, but very impressive though. For especially for an 8-bit console like the Master System. And I do think it is important to the overall, like, I guess, history of JRPGs. I believe one of the big things with this game was like Dragon Quest. You could do, or like not even Dragon Quest. No, it was Final Fantasy. Dragon Quest had like passwords, right, or something. Final Fantasy had 1 save slot. This game had 5 save slots, which is unheard of for the time, you know. And just, I think if you're like looking at like the pillars of like classic JRPGs, you have Dragon Quest, you have Final Fantasy, and then this is probably the third one. This is Phantasy Star.
Do you know? I think this and Final Fantasy, did they release around the same year or same time period?
Let me look that up because that's a good question. Hold on, I believe I can actually just click on Final Fantasy because I believe, yeah, they're both 87. So Final Fantasy was December 18th of 87, and this was December 20th. So 2 days apart.
Wow.
Jeez. Right there. But like I said, because like I know a lot of people say this is a response to Final Fantasy, but no, it was really a response to Dragon Quest.
Yeah. So like I guess historically the significant things like that distinguish Dragon Quest 1 from any other RPG is this basically the only turn-based RPG where you have a single party member fighting. So I guess to even see Final Fantasy and Phantasy Star both have multiple party members in the system, it makes me wonder, like, were there other turn-based RPGs where you did have like those party mechanics and like, because that can't have come from nowhere. But
yeah, I don't think there really were at that time. I mean, this is a year after the first Dragon Quest.
Yeah, I don't know because like they say Dragon Quest stems from Ultima or whatever, so maybe there were computer games where you had party members or something, but I don't know. Okay, so that's interesting to think about. I've played a bit of this back in the day. I played it on Switch. I definitely think that the dungeons stand out. It does have this kind of like nice visually striking appeal, and to think that it's on an 8-bit system. Master System is 8-bit, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you're like seeing the dungeon like kind of progress, I think it's a little choppy, but it does look really good. Because comparatively, like Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy, it's just like your members are like on a overworld or whatever, but it actually feels like a tunnel experience. That I think is maybe the most standout feature of the original game, and outside of that, maybe the fact that it is a sci-fi themed RPG, which you don't tend to see a lot of anyway. And so maybe that's another reason people kind of hold it in such a high regard.
Yeah, it definitely blends elements of traditional fantasy with sci-fi. I think it's like a mixture of like fantasy with Star Wars almost, with the idea of like the LASIK, King LASIK and like his empire and stuff, and like a rebellion. It kind of feels Star Warsy to me in some ways. But yeah, it's very cool to see that like element brought into an RPG this early is the sci-fi element. And yeah, I mean, definitely, I can imagine being a kid and like having a Master System or something, or like even like having an NES and going to a friend's that has a Master System, and all the games I play are all flat, Mario, Alex Kidd, whatever it is,
right.
And then playing the dungeons in this game probably just blow my fucking mind at the time.
Yeah, it's like the Star Fox thing when that came out on Super Nintendo. Like that was huge, just kind of like, I don't know, like with things coming at you on screen. How did you feel about progression? Did you find it cryptic at all?
Yeah, I did find it a little cryptic and grindy, and that's an issue I have with a lot of early RPGs anyway. So I don't know if I can really hold that against this game because it was just the style at the time, I guess. But it has the same issues that I have for a lot of really early RPGs, where it is like it's kind of cryptic to know where you're supposed to go sometimes, and a lot of the times you just kind of have to like, well, I have to grind up, and, go out here and battle the same bug 15 times.
What about the dungeon exploration? Was that straightforward without maps?
Yeah, the inclusion of maps helps. I think you can really tell that they wanted you to like draw maps though. Like that's kind of like the way you probably would play it back in the day. So it is tough at times, especially where like the limitations of the system mean that the 3D dungeons do look a little samey when you're walking through them. So without a map, it can get easy to like get turned around and be like, oh, I already came through this door, or like accidentally go out the wrong, the exit or something, because it all looks the same. So
Okay.
it's a cool idea, but the limitations, I think, the Switch version adds that map, and I'd say that's probably the way you want to play it.
Yeah, I mean, for modern gamers, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think my thing was, sometimes I was just confused. Who am I supposed to talk to, or where am I supposed to go? That was
it's very much a talk to everybody game.
Yeah.
Like, what do you got to say? And it's like, oh, hot dogs are $1, and I'm like, okay, thanks. Blah, 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 blah. What do you have to say? And it's like, you can rest here. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And then finally, somebody's like, there's a seaport to the east. And there's as you go there and you talk to everybody, it's like, well, there's a wizard in a cave to the north or whatever. And then like finally you figure it out. But like it's very much one of those games where you like, kind of have to waddle around, talk to everybody.
It's a classic waddler.
Classic waddler.
Yeah, Phantasy Star 1, Waddle Dees.
Speaking of D's, let's hand it over to D's 2 Fantasy Stars, because it's Fantasy Star 2.
Hell yeah.
I had no joke.
You would D's host right here.
I thought I could make one on the fly, but it was just not happening.
It wasn't. That's okay. Yeah. Well, Alex talked about a classic original entry that competed with the behemoths, Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. I'm talking about the sequel, Phantasy Star 2. Released years later. I think it was the first RPG on the Genesis. This came out in Japan in March 21st, 1989. North America, March 1990. EU, November 30th, 1990. And Brazil in 96. What's going on there?
A little late to the damn 96. Holy, that's a year before Final Fantasy 7.
Holy smokes. Well, interesting history there. Yeah, I know there was some history about the Master System in Brazil. But anyways, you actually gifted me this game at one point for the SEGA Genesis, and I still own it, and I love to play it. I dabbled a little bit. I just don't really keep my Genesis hooked up. Maybe I'll get a Retron. Maybe I can play it that way. But I've been exposed to Phantasy Star 2 a lot. I've owned it on many compilations. Currently, I played it on the SEGA Genesis Classics on Xbox Series S. It's one of these stars back here. It's a game I've struggled to get into. I think it's just really hard, but it still has its charm. This is not like the first game. The first game was definitely like... I mean, it's similar in some regards. It's got this kind of like sci-fi theme. The concept for the game is that you're in this like biodome where they're like generating plants. The planet's called Mota. Get yourself a Mota. And everything is like
Master.
Mota Master, yeah. Master of Motors. Everything's kind of like synthetic, like even like healing your party members, you do it at like a clone lab. So like there's just like all these questions I have. Everything's run by a computer system called Mother Brain, not to be confused with Metroid. And the premise is that Mother Brain has started malfunctioning, so now there's like bio monsters and lab malfunctions and things like that. And you are a government operative named Rolf. and you're supposed to go on these missions to investigate. It's not really clear that like these are missions or whatever. You recruit party members just randomly. There's like one cat ear girl named Nay. She's not a horse, she's a cat eared girl. She's in your house or something. Like I don't know. It's weird. But she's valuable to the party. You get another guy who can like wheel a shotgun later in the game. It's a lot of random occurrences, I find. Like, I don't understand why I got this party member. Like, when I get Gaia, it's like I go to this town and the town is freaking blown up from ruffians. And then after I do that, I just go back to my house and there's a party member there. So some things happen and I'm just like, this is an old RPG where, you know, you just have to suspend your disbelief. It's cool, though. I think that as far as, like, concept and theming goes, it works. Like it really does incentivize you to explore, to go out into the overworld. It kind of has like that like Final Fantasy look overworld. I think Dragon Quest feels a bit more open and like there's a ton of land for you to traverse. Here it's like you'll walk a little bit and then there's like a teleportal bridge to another area, and then you walk and then you find like a high tower town, and then you walk and then you end up in a dungeon. But I like the character and characters to the game. Once you get into combat is where it starts to become a little more tricky. I'm very used to RPGs where it's like I'm upgrading my weapons and my armor, and I see the visibly like this is going to increase my stats. It's not as transparent in this game. Like you can see you can buy steel bars, but it's not going to tell you necessarily that like Rolf can't equip them. You have to buy them and then like give it to your guy, and he's like, I don't know if he can equip that. It's very strange, and you have to like go to your menu system to see what was the impact. So you might waste all your Mesita, that's the currency in the game, try like buying these things, and then they're useless for you. Eventually you'll get it. It makes sense. There's right-handed and left-handed dueling. When you start the game, give Nay 2 steel bars. Just an easy kind of grinding system. The characters level up at different paces, so that's a little weird. There's a bunch of skills and items that you can't read descriptions for, so you have to kind of just go online and look at what it is. Like Ryuka, what do you think a spell called Ryuka does? I don't know, like Hadouken? No, it's your teleportal skill back, you know, to your town. Versus like in Dragon Quest it would be called Zoom, like that's pretty, you know, transparent. Or you get items called Dimate. What the hell is Dimate? Or, you know, and then monomate or trimate. These are like health potions where you can just call it a potion, you know? And so there's so much like lingo and stuff that I just don't like. I play the game, you get a new skill. What the hell does the skill do? What is anti? What does that even mean? A bunch of things have 4 character limits. You know, even your party member, you can only name your solo party member Rolf. I call mine Pimp because I don't know, pimping it through the game. But the other ones, they just have weird names. So as much as I like the concept, I feel like I have like a dissociation from it a little bit. The big dissociation comes from the dungeons. So once you get to your first dungeon, it's just sprawling. There's like 3 floors. There's teleportals up and down, but it's not clear that you're going up or down. It's just you teleported somewhere else. And then parts are blocked off. Chests are locked. You have to get all the way to the end to get a letter and a key so you can open the chest, get dynamite so you go to another dungeon, blow up a door, go through more teleportals. It's nuts. Tylord, thank goodness he was watching, sent me maps that he downloaded from Microsoft, downloaded online, and then used Microsoft Paint to draw the way that you get to the end. And looking at some of these later dungeons, it gets even crazier than within the first 5 hours. In the first 5 hours, those were already tough. It's a brutal dungeon explorer game. And also, it has a high learning level, which I think is difficult. It's not all bad, though. Like, I think that presentation-wise, it's a really good-looking game. And it's a good-sounding game. I think the soundtrack is really good. Like, it has a great battle theme. Even the view of the battles, like you said that it was like first person. This is kind of over the shoulder third person, so you see everyone's butts. Which, I mean, take that for what you will. But it's...
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, if you like butts. Phantasy Star 2, it's for you. You got this like retro grid that like Spencer's been using for the button mapper edits. That's like the combat screen, and it's got this whole kind of like retro feel. It has so much potential, and it has so many things that like I feel like it missed the mark. But that's also part of the thrill. If you like that kind of brutal dungeon exploration, it's not bad. It's actually kind of good, and it makes you like try and remember like which way am I supposed to go. I don't see how you could draw the maps on your own. You would definitely have to go online and find like an empty template and then work on it that way. But man, not newcomer friendly at all.
Yeah, do you think it was designed as a quote-unquote guide game?
Probably. That's probably like a thing that sold alongside the game. I couldn't put myself back in the shoes though, like 33 years ago.
Yeah, I know, just to do like a refresher before we started this episode today, I like watched fuck it, what's that channel? My life in gaming. His like Phantasy Star 1 review, because it's actually pretty good. And he was talking about how he used to use like the Sega helpline, like the 1-800 Sega helpline to like get unstuck in like Phantasy Star 1. I wonder if something like that like influences this type of game design. Yeah.
Yeah, that could make sense. I could read you the reception at the release. It was described as one of the best role-playing games yet to be released for any video game system. Wizardry designer Ro Adams wrote it was a system seller for the Genesis, saying that the 16-bit graphics are gorgeous, but the real fun lies in the science fiction story plot. Challenging and enjoyable with superb combat and animated graphics. Well, I guess the thing that doesn't make it a guide game is that I think that the narrative progression is a little more straightforward. Like, it's actually just, like, go explore. Like, it's pretty obvious the ruffians ransacked this town and they took over this base, and now, like, that base is right over there, so I'm just going to explore it. The challenge is the dungeons, which you might not need the guide for. Obviously, it would help, but I think if back in the day, you wouldn't really have much else to do anyway. You just probably sink hours into this game. It's only like an average of 27 hours, I want to say, from what I was seeing on How Long to Beat.
That's not too bad. That's still longer than other RPGs, I think, at that time, but it's not too bad.
It's meaty too. There's a lot of stuff to go around. A lot of worlds.
Yeah.
So that's Phantasy Star 2 as well.
So, unlike other episodes where these are meatier games, we didn't play each other's games.
No, but you watched me stream it, and then I have played bits of Phantasy Star 1.
Yeah, I've played Phantasy Star 2 before, but it's been a very long time. Like I've never finished it or anything, but I have like dabbled and played around with it. You know, it's like one of those games. Like it's one of those games that I was like on this collection on PS3. I'd always be like, I'm gonna play this, and then I'll play like a little bit. Then I'm just like, I'm gonna go play Sonic.
By the way, I did find in the wiki page, Phantasy Star 2 is regarded by many and the demand for extensive strategy guides for such games, and then it says parentheses Phantasy Star 2 included one with the game itself.
Oh, so it was a guide game.
Yeah,
it was a guided game. I don't think. Yeah, see, I don't think one had a guide. One just you had to call the helpline. It was funny. I'm reading the reception from one, and there's a lot of comparisons of reviews at the time to Zelda. That's interesting to me because I would not compare this to Zelda in any way.
I guess just the gaming market, you know, at that time was so fresh.
Well, in Zelda, I think there's, you know, at the time, the original Zelda, maybe even Zelda 2, were still considered like RPGs at that time, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe I get it there, but like, yeah, this is, I mean, Zelda and Phantasy Star are much different games. Much different games.
Well, let's talk pros and cons, maybe?
Pros and cons.
Okay. What are the pros of Phantasy Star
Pros.
Uno?
Um, I think the pros of Phantasy Star 1, a big one for me, is the dungeons. I think the dungeons are really cool, really impressive. The second one doesn't have 3D dungeons, right?
No, okay, I can describe it. So there's like a foreground and a main ground, and the foreground is like the pipes above the dungeon. It's so strange. I would love to see what it looks like later in the game, but it's actually like pretty cool looking, although basic. And it is over the top. Like you see your party members on screen walking around.
I think it's being able to see what they were able to do with the match system in the first game is one of its charms. Is just kind of putting yourself in the mindset, which is what you have to do for a lot of these really early RPGs anyway, is put yourself in that mindset. So like putting yourself in the mindset of like playing a classic RPG and seeing these 3D dungeons is still really cool. It's like really impressive to see that. So I think that is a big pro for me. Also, the art design I think would be a big pro for me. Two probably also has it as well. But the creatures and like enemies and like stuff, they all have and like even like the cutscenes, they all have really striking visual designs. I like seeing like a big sandworm or like a big eyeball bat, or even like the little anime characters. One of your party members is a cat in the first game. Not like a cat girl like yours, but like an actual cat. So like I like seeing the little cutscenes of the characters and stuff. Like it has some really cool art design, which is also very impressive for an 8-bit console.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a spectacle. It's like technically impressive on multiple fronts. And it also is like a pioneer. So I think that is respectable from a historical perspective. Fantasy Star 2 pros. Let me get the stars back on the screen.
There we go. There they
Yeah.
are. What do you got for two?
I think I appreciate that it, didn't feel like it had to be the first game again. Like they were trying new things. And actually, I think it feels kind of like RPG like. The first one obviously does, but I think the first one feels, well, I'll stay off of comparisons for a second. I think the second one has a good concept. It has a strong, like, this idea of like computer, a computer run world where like things are running amok is it's interesting. That is like the plot of like a lot of sci-fi literature at the time. So it's interesting to see that mimicked here. And then I think while like the language is difficult of like items and spells, I do think once you get a hang of it, it starts to flow a little better. Like I swore to myself I wasn't enjoying this game, but then like after you saw my first stream, I ended up going for 3 hours. Like I didn't expect that. The next one I did like a little over 2. So, I found myself getting really into it. And finding I wasn't really looking at the guide so much. Only out of desperation. And I think I appreciate like how we did like Final Fantasy 1 recently and like it told you every room you could go to and I basically just, cheesed my way through it. And this one I'm not really doing that. So I think there is a niceness to that challenge.
No cheese here.
Cheese free. We don't do
Cheese,
no lactose.
dairy free.
Drink my coffee black.
um, do you can get this as a pro. I just have a general question though. Do you think that 2 escapes any of the I don't want to say issues, but any of the limitations that plague like early RPGs?
What would be an example of an issue that plagues an early RPG? Cryptic
That's a good
progression?
question. Yeah, maybe that's a good one. Cryptic progression and grinding. Do you think 2 addresses that in any way? Because that's something that is prominent in the first game.
Actually, in my first 5 hours, I haven't fought a single big boss battle, so I haven't really needed to do anything like that. And then your character gets a spell early on. It's called Highness, Highness. I don't know. But it lets you escape the dungeon, and then Ryuka lets you go back to your town. There are teleporters within your town, so you can you don't have to like go long distances. So I appreciate that. You get like I've had 3 party members for a while now, so that's good. And then, like I said, the narrative I think makes sense. The only thing that's just really tricky is those dungeons. There's a high benchmark there.
Okay.
Oh, I did want to add one more pro. So you said that the first one looks visually impressive. What I really like about the second one is even in the combat scenes, like every monster is animated. So you can see them like moving on screen even before they attack. I think even with Pokemon, you don't really see that until like Gen 4, Gen 5.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
a little
true.
ahead of its
Yeah.
time in that way. And then you see their attacks and stuff too. Not like that they're that. I mean, a locust is only gonna like just spit shit at you, you know. But it's still cool.
And the over the shoulder view of 2 was something that always left an impression on me too. It was like a lot of those classic RPGs. I mean, Dragon Quest was first person. Final Fantasy had like the side by side, but like the over the shoulder thing just is visually dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ready to con it up?
Con.
God.
I guess the biggest con for me, and it feels cheap calling it a con, is I mentioned it is the limitations of early RPGs. Is that something like Phantasy Star 1 is not as beginner friendly as later RPGs can be. So it can be a little tough to go back to it. Um, but I don't know if it's fair to call that a con. It's just comes with the territory of being a RPG released in 1987.
I mean, it is. You should acknowledge it because like if you had a baby play it today, I was a baby.
Baby.
You know.
Baby, I'm still in the womb.
The baby decides which game it likes by like crawling to the controller.
Turbo graphics. Fuck.
Puts it in his mouth. I think the baby would find it's unplayable. And I'm exaggerating with baby, but like a kid today, like would spit this right out.
I would have. Tell you that much. If I would have played this game back in the day, I was used to like my Mario World and stuff. If I played Phantasy Star, I would have been like, I can't. What am I supposed to do? Just walking around, and then I walk out in the field and get murdered by a bug.
Yeah.
I do think the overworld is ugly as a sin. Like I said, when it's close up in the battles, the dungeons, and the cutscenes, they look beautiful. Whenever you're zoomed out in the overworld, you look like little stick figures almost waddling around the areas, and the houses all look like little domes, and like it's hard to tell what anything is, and the music is there. So,
I listened to the battle theme by comparison. It's not good.
Yeah. I that's probably more just the Master System itself than it is like the game design. Like, I don't know if the Master System had that many great soundtracks, but like, yeah, like it can look a little ugly at times compared to other RPGs, but it's so weird. It's like split down the middle. It's like, man, beautiful artwork and stuff, and then like you zoom out to the overworld, and it's like, what the hell am I looking at?
It's aged.
Aged like a fine cheese.
That's not. No. Well, Phantasy Star 2 has aged in some ways as well. I think most notably, it's just a brutal like RPG, and like that has its own market, but I don't necessarily think it was intended that way. I think it's just a byproduct of like not having the maps in there and having very intricate dungeons. I have a couple like narrative things that are like weird to me. So the music, we mentioned that for a second. Remember that town that was like blown up to shit? it's like before you go into the first major dungeon, the ruffians ransack it. When you go into the town, it's like, ba, 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 ba. It's like, what is this jolly music? This town is blown to shit. Like, there's a clear like disconnect here. At one point, you save a girl from being hostage by the ruffians, which you can't even see in the dungeon, and then she joins your party, and you go to the bridge where the guy has been standing. He won't let you pass. They're like, "Oh, he's a bounty hunter. Won't let him pass." She's his daughter, and she goes up to him like, "Dad," and he's like, "Bitch, get the fuck away from me." And then she's like, "But Dad, I just want to talk." And then he's like, "I'll kill you," and he shoots her. And then he's like, "What have I done?" And then he explodes. I was just like, I didn't know what to make of the scene. Because it's, again, you have like jolly music as you just enter the new freaking territory. And I guess I kind of get it. Like he was a malfunctioning computer program or something, but it's very strange. You would not pick up on this like just playing the game. You would have to have some like external information about it from the guide, from the manual, whatever. And so I think logically, I just go like, what is happening here? And that happens to me too, even with some gameplay elements, because like I don't know to go back to my main town to check if a party member has arrived at the house. It happens a couple times throughout the game, and yeah, so it's illogical in several ways, which is weird.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've noticed anything like that with the first game. The first game seems like a pretty simple narrative for the most part. Are you ready to decide?
I think so. Are you?
Yeah. And this is a weirder one because, like we said, we didn't really. Normally, we would try to play each other's games before the episodes. This one, it's a little different. I guess this will go for all of the RPG episodes. So, but given the evidence that we've provided on this episode today, I will give my answer.
Excellent. That's all I can ask is an answer. So on 3, we'll say which Phantasy Star gets the W.
Yeah.
1, 2.
Wait. On 3? Like, do we say 3 then do it, or are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
After 3,
Ready?
we say that the
After 3. So 1, 2, 3, bam.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Ready?
Yeah. You can count down.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Phantasy Star 2.
Oh, we're divided. It's time for a Turbo Throwdown! You know what this means, right? You have to break out the wheel of names.
Maybe.
Oh, wait, no, we vote, don't we? Then we
Yeah.
make the wheel of names.
But let's just give our rationales first.
I think my rationale here is pretty simple. The first Phantasy Star is a very impressive early RPG for the Mass System that has a lot of its own charm and personalities. Phantasy Star 2 might have taken a lot of those concepts and developed them further, but I know that they do it better in other games on the Genesis than 2. So I know that there's going to be better Phantasy Stars coming up. So I don't think I can rationally choose the second game over the first one for that fact that like I know that like say Phantasy Star 4 is probably gonna beat out Phantasy
Not
Star
3.
2.
3 won't.
Not 3, but
Yeah.
to 4
Yeah.
will probably beat out Phantasy Star 2, no problem. Phantasy Star 1 though I think has its own flavor and charm, and I think is overall just a more important piece of history to me.
Okay. While I respect the legacy of the first Phantasy Star, I first off think it's overstated, and then second off, I don't think it's aged particularly great. I do think it's aged better than, say, Dragon Quest One. Dragon Quest One is really freaking cryptic. I can't play without a guide. at certain parts. But I also feel that way about the first Phantasy Star. I feel like with Phantasy Star 2, I can play through the game. It would be annoying with the dungeons, but I could do it. And I think I'd have a more enjoyable time doing so. I really do like the music. Like I said, the battle theme is really good. I understand the systems well enough to get through it. And even though there are those juxtapositions in narrative that don't make any sense, I actually find it kind of just like fun in a jarring way, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just like, what the hell did I just say? Like, that's a kind of cool reaction to have when playing an older game. So Phantasy Star 2 gets my vote.
Well, we're divided yet again. I think this happened once on the Golden Axe Streets of Rage. So let us know in the comments who you vote for. I want you to, before you can comment whatever you want after, but at the top of your vote, in all caps, say, my vote is blank, Phantasy Star 1 or Phantasy Star 2. That way we can count them up, and on the next episode we will announce the winner. If there's a tie, then we'll break out the wheel of names. I forgot how this worked.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Since
Just like Steve. It's been a while. Speaking of that, we do have our next episode already planned. Hopefully it'll be the wait won't be as lengthy as it was between this one and the last one. Teddy, what's the next episode?
Next episode is a classic. We're gonna beat them up with Golden Axe 2 versus Streets of Rage 2.
I'm Golden Axe 2.
I'm Streets of Rage 2.
We're ready to get back into the beat 'em ups next episode. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Please vote, even if you've never played either of these games. Just based on what you heard, every vote counts. We'll be happy to read them off or something on screen next episode. Otherwise, it is going down to chance. And
both games are shit. Sega is shit. My vote is for Star Ocean 1.
Well, I won't read that. But I will read if you pick Phantasy Star 1 or Phantasy Star 2. And also, stay tuned, subscribe, check out the more Turbo Throwdowns. We have some really good ones. I really like them all. I like the Vector Man one. That's a classic to me.
Yeah, and we have some more coming, including, if you enjoy Phantasy Star, we do have Phantasy Star 3 versus Phantasy Star 4. It seems like a one-sided battle with that episode, but we'll see. Who knows? You never know with this show.
Yeah, you just don't.
Except for Eastwad. Eastwad always wins.
Will it though?
I think Eastwad is getting my my push for winner of the whole competition.
Over Sonic 2. Got it.
Over Shinobi 3. Eastwad. What a dumb game. Trying to push as the winner.
Absolutely not. That's not even reasonable.
Come on. It's what?
No.
Closing question for you, Teddy. What do you think a Turbo Hoedown would be?
Something in the South, which is like a main event on a Friday, and it would be square dancing, or line dancing, like Cotton Eye Joe, but it would have to be double speed. Where'd you come from? Where'd you go? Where'd you come from? What can I do?
Yeah. I've been married a long time ago. You're on roller. I pictured you're on roller skates with rockets tied to them or something. You're going around in circles or something. I don't know.
The ambulance is right next door for all the elderly folk.
Did you know Cotton Eye Joe was written by the band was they were Swedish?
Oh,
yeah, that's not. That's true. That's very true.
I believe you. I believe they were Swiss, like the cheese that has aged today. Thanks, everybody. It's been Turbo Throwdown.
Bye!